Once upon a time, I was 13 years old. I was looking around for Sprite Sheets. Had my sights set on, making Sonic the Hedgehog fan games or something. And then, one day, after going deep down the well of the image searches, I stumbled upon something called Sonic and Pals, a Sprite comic. I'd never seen such a thing before, so I had to check it out. After that point, I spent the next 3 days catching up to what was at the time the latest page. And before I even got to that point, I was all like, I could do this! And once I caught up, that's precisely what I did. Making a comic would certainly be way more approachable than making an entire game. And I'd really have something to use all these Sprite Sheets I'd collected for. So, yeah, I put together all these, mostly Sonic Advance Sprite Sheets, and, I just was inspired by Sonic and Pals. I started, making my own. First, just some test image stuff, testing the waters, figuring stuff out. How do you even, edit these things? I'd never tried that before. I didn't want to just copy it verbatim. No, of course not. I wanted to make my own thing. Do something different from what anyone else might have been doing. So, what I eventually came up with was, what if I make a comic about the next generation? And that's when I made what was, well, initially under the working title, Sonic Kids. The Sonic and Pals author Trevor Fias, or Trey, went ahead and inserted himself into the comic as some strange figure who looked a lot like Shadow for some reason, with authory powers, and I did something similar, although I didn't want to just look like an already existing character, so, I just went a little step further beyond a recolor, took Sonic, because, yay, hedgehogs are cool now, I guess, and, tried to edit the sprites, figure out how this whole process works to make my own self-insert character, which, yeah, I guess, that's amateur hour for you. Just editing Sonic sprites and trying to figure out, okay, well, what would I even look like? Being green or red would just seem kind of freaky. I tried to think about, if I were turned into a Sonic Hedgehog, Mobian, whatever you call them, what would I, really end up wanting to look like and stuff, and, yeah, just being some kind of rainbow color or whatever just seemed weirdly freaky, so I just stuck with a normal skin tone, I guess, more or less. I don't know, wasn't Sonic, 2 separate colors at the same time? I know a lot of people trying this out for the first time would kick off with just a simple recolor or something, but I tried to go one step beyond by, instead of having that oval thing that Sonic has on his torso, I went with Shadow's fuzz, whatever this is. Yeah, that little tuft of fur. And, I didn't want to just copy Sonic's buckle shoes, so, I just came up with something that I thought might look kind of cool. I kind of based the design on something from, I think it was one of those Christopher Hart books about, learning to draw manga or something. I think there was a character that had shoes that I thought looked cool and simple, and I just did something similar to that. That then led me to designing the, so-called Sonic Kids. And I tried to take a little what I learned from, simple high school biology stuff, and, tried to, just cross the genes, so to speak. Sonic has Sonic speed, and Amy has a hammer. Okay, well then their son has a spiked hammer, and their daughter has light speed. That makes sense enough. I mean, that's more or less something I'd picked up from a high school biology class. Figured I'd put some of that boring knowledge to use somehow. Then, yay, I did it. And that left me with Indigo the Hedgehog, Violet the Hedgehog, Brainiac the Rabbit, Sunday the Fox, Sam the Echidna, Venom the Echidna, Gold the Cat, Flame the Hedgehog, Void the Bat, and Jade the Hedgehog. Oh, and then there's me, Lugbazurg the Hedgehog. And thus, Sonic Future was born. After I'd gotten used to meticulously manipulating itty-bitty little graphics pixel by pixel to get the newfound characters I wanted, I jumped right to work into putting this all together as a full-on series. I wasn't really sure how to do this. Hadn't really had a huge amount of experience making my own comics at home. I certainly spent a lot of time doodling around comics on paper, making very simplistic humor, only I thought was funny comic about stick figures called Paper World, starring Mr. Weirdo Man. But this was, I guess, a whole new caliber, more or less. And I didn't really have an audience either. I just made it for myself. I just started. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I just dove in and had a lot of fun with it. There were no backgrounds for a while. I guess that was the case with Paper World as well. I don't know, I just started breaking the fourth wall, introducing everyone, and had big, massive powers or something. I don't know. That kind of wore off as the story went on. And as the series continued, I started getting better. Had some better sprites, better speech balloons, backgrounds eventually showed up. I laid off the author power nonsense eventually. Yeah, I made the first 286 pages with no feedback, for better or for worse, just completely by myself, no one else, all isolated completely. And, well, after that point, I went to the now defunct Sunlight forums. Yeah, ever hear of that place? And I just kind of asked around. I must have posted a thread somewhere, like, just asking, hey, does anyone know where is a good website where I can host my own webcomic series? And someone, sure wish I could remember who, recommended something called Smack Jeeves. From 2008 to 2015, I'd say, I practically lived on Smack Jeeves. By 2008, I had amassed so many pages, I just had to let the site update the series every single day, every 24 hours at 8 a.m. sharp. That way, I could have anything all caught up as quickly as possible, so people wouldn't have to think that I'm really all that cruddy. So I could just be like, oh, no, I'm actually much better at making these sprite comics than it looks like right now. We'll catch up to what I can do now, eventually. I remember I had the series publicly begin the very same day Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out, March 9th, 2008. Why? I don't know, I just wanted to coincide with something special, I guess. I still remember the first comment I received, the very first comment on the very first page, and it was just the perfect introduction to exactly what I had just gotten myself into. Welcome to Sonic Future!
Hello, is this an author comic? If so, can I join?
If you're wondering if that's me, that's me.
Inappropriate comments will be deleted.
Yeah, I didn't know at the time what he meant. I thought that, like, an author comic was supposed to be, like, when the author inserts themselves into the comic. But no, as it turns out, there was this whole shtick on Smack Jeeves where, like, lots and lots of authors would all get tied into the same comic, and more would keep piling in every once in a while to just make all this random stuff happen in these collaborative comics, usually in a Sonic the Hedgehog sprite style. It was usually that, all crammed into a big house, and just crazy stuff would happen. That was, like, pretty much its own genre on Smack Jeeves. They were everywhere. Sonic author comics were everywhere. I actually even got into a few of them myself. Shortly after I joined the site and started putting stuff up on Smack Jeeves, I got into Sonic Gets Blasted because we like hurting Sonic. It was like, what else? It was When Authors Unite, the life and times of Jonic's friends 2, Teenage, and Smash, and Super Smash Brothers author comic or something. Yeah, these things were everywhere. Oh, and Sonic Authors the Crazy House. Who could forget Sonic Authors the Crazy House? That was where I first discovered Shoop Da Whoop. Thanks, Heavy Rose. Ooh. And Sonic Authors The Meeting 2 and 3 and the Random Authors comic. Yeah, see, I told you these things were everywhere. There was no escaping these things. I remember some pretty weird ones, like, I remember there was this one that was called Record in the Making, where the goal was to have the record for the most authors in an author comic, but they couldn't make it, so they made a sequel called Record in the Breaking, and that failed too, so then they made a third one called Let's Break It for Reals! That always had me wondering, like, man, I'm kind of lucky I actually noticed all three of these. I wonder if there was a fourth, actually. And just imagining, what if someone just stumbled upon the third one with no context and just like, why is it called that? That's weird. As the years rode on, I even tried dabbling in making a few other comics on top of Sonic Future. I made another Sonic comic that went nowhere, another Sonic comic that went nowhere, a Ben 10 comic that went nowhere, and another Sonic comic that went nowhere. Yeah, nothing else ever seemed to reach the heights of Sonic Future. That's what I was known for. That's what everyone came for. There was nothing else that came close. Until eventually, within 3 years, I was growing older, more mature. My interests were changing and deepening, and I wanted to make something different, something much more adult. Ah, who am I kidding? It was 2011, and you know what that means! Yeah, that had my attention for a bit. Truth be told, I actually kind of lost interest in the series about halfway through my comic, around the time Season 3 of this show was airing. But I had amassed so many new fans, I just made sure to see it through. I didn't want to just leave one of my biggest projects just completely unresolved. My fans deserve better. My fans deserve more! Heck, I even got a bit of fan art. For better or for worse. Yeah, it was all on you, huh? Had to be my #1 fan in regards to this series, at least. Drawing up all this cursed fan art with those cursed hooves. And then there was that brief cursed fan fiction written somewhere in the comments section, which I then adapted into an actual joke comics page for, like, April Fool's Day or something. It was at this point that there was no doubt I was running the #1 most popular, dare I even say it?
My Little Pony.
Yes, that. I ran the #1 most popular webcomic series based on that, on all of Smack Jeeves. I know, I checked. Definitely one of my most unintended accomplishments. It was kind of an awkward growing pains bridge stage. I tried to make something with a bit more structure, more of a serious tone, and more memes. It was done diegetically. It made sense in context. But the experience was still valuable. This was, after all, pretty much the whole reason why most of my digital artwork has had colored outlines up to this point. There would be so many long discussions to be found in all the comments sections of every single page, and it would make for a nice transitionary period between sprite work fanfiction and a more serious manga style. Which leads us to... With all the hundreds of fans I'd accumulated through fanfiction, I felt the time was finally right for me to throw my hat into the ring and create something original. I was more or less going back to my roots at this point. I don't think I'd made an original hand-drawn comic series since, I don't know, Paper World, I guess. If there's really anything much you can really glean from trying to connect these two in the first place. However, this was all happening right around the time I had also just started making a YouTube channel, and I didn't feel like I could really split my attention too much between the two things. The fact that you're even watching this video here in the first place should probably tell you which of the two was the one that ended up winning my attention. Sadly, before I knew it, Smack Jeeves was bought up by another company, and they ran it into the ground so hard that, on New Year's Eve of 2020, they shut down the entire site completely. Fortunately, I was at least warned of this ahead of time by Chunko on DeviantArt, but man, all that niche history, all those memories I had, all that growing I did, building myself up, the very first place where I initially accumulated a fan base. Gone. It's all gone. So many people long missed, whom I just might never be able to reconnect with. Everyone's pretty much long gone and untraceable at this point. If there's anyone out there, anyone from Smack Jeeves, I'm still here. I haven't forgotten where I came from. Any of you still out there, especially if you ever read anything that I made, I would love to be able to reconnect. Anyone out there, please just let yourself be known. I'd love to hear from you all. There were so many people I used to talk to so much, and I deeply miss it. Anyone at all. I'd love to hear from you again. The other silver lining is Comic Fury, another webcomic hosting site so familiar, so like Smack Jeeves' own golden age, but now. This is where many of my fellow so-called refugees have made their mass exodus and made it into their new home. This is where I've been uploading much of my old work, so it can still be read today. In fact, as of this video, I am currently re-uploading my old work onto Comic Fury. Sonic Future and Serendipity can be read once again. Oh, and as for Gaiden Chain, I'm actually pulling it out of hiatus and working on new pages as we speak. I'm getting back in. With all that said, I feel I must give you a huge thank you for joining me on this little trip down memory lane. Thank you to all my fellow comics creators who made it so wonderful to be there. And of course, to Admin himself, oh Admin my Admin, for creating such a wonderful place in the first place. I say, farewell, Smack Jeeves.